Welcome to the 255, where we help business owners like you unlock the full potential of your business through practical strategies and clear guidance. I'm Arnold and I'll be your host as we explore a powerful framework that helps you make smarter decisions, maximize profitability, and build long-term value. In this podcast series, we'll be breaking down a framework I call the 255, which stands for 2 fundamentals, 5 multipliers, and 5 foundation stones that form the basis of a thriving business. Whether you're just starting out or managing an established company, this framework is practical and actionable. It's designed to help you make smarter decisions and achieve greater profitability. In the last episode, I discussed the basics of the 255 framework, which are 2 fundamentals, cashflow and risk. These are the core of every business decision you make. Then there are 5 multipliers: leads, conversion rate, average dollar sale, contribution margin, and the valuation multiplier, which form the business formula to skyrocket your growth. And finally, the 5 foundation stones, which put your decisions into action. Now, today we're going to talk about the first fundamental, which is cash flow. Cash flow will determine whether you buy a new car or a new house, or whether you have to sell them. Cash flow determines the winners and losers in the business. Businesses with a strong cash flow are the winners. They can pay better, they attract top talent, they take advantage of new opportunities. They're very proactive. They grow faster with less risk. They can borrow at lower interest rates, and they provide the owners with higher dividends and salaries, and they experience far less stress. On the flip side, businesses with a poor cash flow are always in survival mode. They can't act on new opportunities because they're struggling to stay afloat. They have to take on riskier projects to try and generate cash flow, face challenges getting bank loans, and often resort to high interest loans. They grow slowly and have little money available for the owners. It's important to remember that a profitable business can still fail because of cash flow issues. It's all about how quickly profits convert into cash. So let's look at a couple of examples. Imagine a consultancy business that invoices clients for services. But if the clients take 2 months to pay, there's a gap between the profit and the cash flow. In a products-based business, it can work similar ways. Suppose a company anticipates a strong fourth quarter and buys 10,000 units, but they only end up selling 5,000 units. They've still got to pay for the remaining 5,000 units. This difference between profit and cash flow emphasizes the need to manage balance sheet items and optimize your cash flow. Now, there are a few major drivers of cash flow. The first is your growth rate. So the faster you grow, the more cash your business needs, since there's often a lag between starting a job or ordering products and getting paid. On the flip side, slower growth requires less cash, and sometimes even reducing sales temporarily can improve cash flow by letting the business catch up. Another key driver is the contribution margin. Businesses with higher contribution margins generate more cash and grow faster, where low contribution margin businesses have less cash to work with. A low contribution margin business that is growing quickly will always need extra funds, either as owners' capital injections or external lending. They always think that when the business gets bigger, when they reach $1 million in sales or $5 million in sales or $10 million in sales, that they will be able to pay the money back. But they can never pay it back because they just need more and more money the bigger they get. That is the way their business is structured. They're profitable, but their cash flow never catches up to their growth. In fact, a well-managed balance sheet, and we'll talk about that in a sec, can help offset the cash flow limitations of a low-margin business. For many low-margin, high-volume business, an efficient supply chain is essential for survival. It's the only way that they can offset their growth and low margins is through the efficiency of their balance sheet, getting inventory along payment terms, and turning over the inventory as quickly as possible. Many businesses assume that borrowing is the only way to fund growth, often turning to expensive forms of finance like debt or inventory finance because it's easy to obtain. But this approach doesn't address their underlying cash flow weaknesses. Instead of borrowing more, these businesses could change their operations to improve their cash flow, temporarily slowing growth, increasing asset turnover, or raising prices all help cash flow catch up. Understanding how the cash flow dynamics in your business work are essential. When sales increase, it's essential to understand how much cash is required to support that growth. For instance, what happens if you increase your prices or reduce your PPC advertising? Sales might drop, but profitability and cash flow could improve. In a service business, there's always often a lock-up period, the time between starting a job and getting paid. Take a pest control service as an example. The technician might complete the job, wait a week to return and check, then send an invoice 2 weeks later. That's a lock-up period of about 4 weeks. By using accounting systems like Xero to invoice immediately and having a mobile payment option like Square, they could reduce that period significantly to days. For lawyers and accountants, this lock-up period is often much longer. The job might take 6 to 8 weeks to complete, and then the client pays 60 days later, which means the business might wait 5 or 6 months to get paid, all the while covering wages and rent and other expenses. Changing your payment terms, such as requiring an upfront retainer or billing weekly, can significantly improve cash flow. The cash flow generated from regular business operations is called operational organic cash flow. If there's a shortfall in organic cash flow, it needs to be supplemented by either borrowing or equity investments. It's critical to understand how the cash flows work in your business and to build a cash flow model to see how changes in margins and inventory affect cash flow. Many business owners don't make a cash flow budget. It's not because they don't care, it's because it's too complicated, they're unsure how to do it. For our businesses, we develop long-term cash flow models, 3 to 5 years, with the key assumptions of a business, and then we try and break it. And by break it, I mean, how far can we push the assumptions before we run out of money? If we increase sales by 100%, if we launch 10 more products, how much money can we take out of the business before it runs out? When is the quarter with the lowest cash flow? For our e-commerce business, that's the third quarter, when we build up inventory for the fourth quarter. The purpose of this long-term cash flow is not to determine how much in profits or money we will have at the end of 5 years, but determine what are the parameters of our growth. It tells us if we follow that path, then we're going to need to borrow or inject more funds at a particular time. If we know we're going to need more funding in a year's time, then we can start talking to the bank now about setting up a loan facility. We can wait to find out. We've got time to find out what the bank wants to see from our business in terms of growth and security. We've got time to make changes and put them into place. You don't want to be talking to the bank 2 weeks before you need to make the final inventory payment. That tells the bank that you're really flying by the seat of your pants. They don't really like that. In the show notes, I have a link to a 4-year cash flow spreadsheet that we developed for Amazon businesses. Download it and you can see and change the assumptions around to see how that affects cash flow. We also run an in-detail 52-week cash flow model for our e-commerce business, where we forecast the sales for all our products and when we need to order them. And then we look at the cash flow effects to ensure we have enough cash. If there are a couple of weeks with negative cash, we might delay launching a product or slow the sales by reducing PPC. We want to know what's going to happen in 6 to 12 months. It also makes running the business far less stressful. If we know that if things are going to plan, we won't run out of money. I usually work out of 4 high and a low version as well. If sales take off or if they decrease. And that way I can look at the trend months beforehand and adjust what I'm going to order. This kind of modeling is crucial because the decisions you make today won't show their full effects for several months. Suppose you adjust your pricing strategy or inventory system today. You might not feel the impact for 6 months when the cash starts running low or you've got heaps of cash. You could have forecast this. You could have seen this in advance. You'd know in advance when the cash might run out, and you can start conversations with lenders now rather than just scrambling for high interest loans when it's too late. Inventory and debtor finance, for example, carry interest rates of between 20 and 80%. These options are often marketed aggressively to product-based businesses, but they become a financial trap if your cash needs continue growing due to low contribution margins or high growth rates. If you found out your business is never going to pay back the loan. You're always going to need more cash. And you've got an interest rate of 80%. Then it's a different story. Many businesses think they'll pay off financing within a few months and then finally find themselves continually dependent on it, caught in a cycle of high interest debt. So understanding and managing cash flow is essential for running a successful business. And knowing your cash flow dynamics and building a reliable cash flow model and planning for growth are key. Remember, the decisions you make today will show up in your cash flow in 6 months or even a year. By planning ahead and understanding your financial cash flow model, you'll be better prepared to make smart decisions to keep your business profitable and sustainable. So the key thing I want you to do today, the key takeaway, is to think about how the cash flow cycle works in your business. Is cash flow an issue? What is your delay between profits and the cash being available? In a later episode, we'll go into detail about building a cash flow model. So thank you for tuning into today's episode of the 255 Framework. I look forward to diving deeper with you into the next episode as we continue to explore the body of cash flow, the fundamentals of business, which is risk. So if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe to Shopify, Apple Podcast, or YouTube so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. If you've got any questions or topics you'd like me to cover, reach out to me on LinkedIn, Arnold Shields, and I'd love to hear from you and include your questions in my future discussions. Once again, I'm Arnold Shields, and this is the 255. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.